Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Now, OPPO just launched their brand new OPPO Reno8 T 5G, and this device here is actually a very unique device because this is actually in the mid-range segment, and OPPO is trying to up their mid-range devices. So what's new and what's special about this device? Well, let's find out. Now, before I begin, in case you are wondering if this device here is tied to the Reno 8 series, well, the answer here is that it is not. It is a brand new series in the mid-range category for OPPO. So this device here is actually introducing a lot of cool new features, and we will go through them one by one throughout today's video. But the main thing, one thing that I'm super excited to check out here is actually their 108 megapixel portrait camera. Now, this is the first time OPPO has ever used a 108 megapixel sensor on their phone, so super excited to check this out, and I'll be sharing the results with you guys. Now, with that said, let's start off with the design. Now, we can see that this design here is actually very special. You know, it comes with a lot of curves on the phone itself. There are curves on the edges, on the sides, even on the display as well, and on all the four corners. And this makes the OPPO Reno8 T a very comfortable phone to hold and use throughout my entire past few days. There are two colors, there's the midnight black and there's the sunrise gold. I think they both look really beautiful and they look really premium. It's also worth mentioning that if you tilt the device from side to side, you see the kind of glow going around the entire back panel. And this is a matte back panel, by the way. That means there'll be no fingerprints stick onto it whatsoever. Other than that, this is a super slim device. Check this out, guys. It's really slim, and at 171 grams, it's actually a very lightweight device in this world of big heavy phones. So definitely appreciating those slim and lightweight form factor. Alright, so just for fun, I picked out my Nothing Phone 1 and I put them side by side. You might notice that both phones, the dimensions might look very similar, but obviously the OPPO Reno8 T is slimmer and slightly more compact to hold, but yet it actually houses a larger display compared to the Nothing Phone 1. It is a 6.7 inch versus a 6.55, so definitely a very efficient use of space by OPPO on the Reno8 T. Right, so since we are talking about the display, let's talk a bit more and deep dive into what this display is all about. Well, we do have here a curved display, something that you mostly see on more premium smartphones. Again, this is something that's being brought down to mid-range these days. We have here 120 Hz. That means that everything is going to be refreshed really quickly. It's going to be buttery smooth. If you interact with social media a lot, you'll notice that it is just super smooth here. Now, the main point that I noticed about this AMOLED panel here is that its colors and contrast levels are much better than phones that are slightly cheaper that also claim to use an AMOLED panel. So this basically means that you will have deeper blacks, colors that pop a little bit more, and most of the time I hear this very often, like people asking me like, why is OPPO's phones more expensive than their counterparts? Well, basically I think this is the answer. They're basically using better quality display panels, especially since you will be looking at your phone most of the time. The display is very important here, and happy to say that you have a proper display on the OPPO Reno8 T. Alright, so moving on to my favorite part of the OPPO Reno8 T, that 108 megapixel portrait camera. Now, we have here a super unique camera setup on the Reno8 T. Not only does it come with that OPPO's first ever 108 megapixel portrait camera, it also comes with a 40 times micro lens and a 2 megapixel depth camera. Now, the 108 megapixel camera here provides a ton of detail. I went out to KL again to take a couple of shots, street photography. I try to do that a lot these days. And I noticed that the colors coming off the OPPO Reno8 T was very natural. It was actually quite true to life, which actually surprised me because phones of this price range tend to offer pictures that are very saturated. Other than that, I also zoomed in a lot of my 108 megapixel shots, and I found that there's a lot of detail. That means you can keep on zooming into your photo and you will have lossless detail. So that's pretty cool about the 108 megapixel sensor. Now, if you are into portrait shots, you will be pleased to know that portrait pictures come out very well here. The bokeh at the background is also very true to life, and it's similar to higher end, more expensive smartphones. So again, very pleased with that camera there. Now, another thing that I found really fun to use was that 40 times micro lens. This was actually something that was introduced on OPPO's flagship from before, the Find X3, that had a micro lens as well. And I found it very fun because it allows you to take a lot of different perspectives of objects up close and personal. And I think it's actually great for sharing on social media. So after one full day of taking a lot of photos here and there, I noticed that my battery life was actually still holding up very well. And this brings me on to my next point, and that is that 4800 mAh battery in this really slim body. Now, I noticed that I was able to get approximately 6 to 7 hours of screen on time, and that is actually with the always on display turned on. And in terms of the charging speeds, we actually have very fast charging speeds here. It is actually a 67 watt super VOOC charging, and you can get 80% in just 30 minutes and fully charge the entire device in just 44 minutes. The best part, the charger and cable are both in the box. Moving on to my next point in terms of user experience. User experience is very important here, and I really want to highlight this because the OPPO Reno8 T was launched with ColorOS 13 and it was already running on Android 13. Now this runs really smoothly with the Snapdragon 695. We have 8GB of RAM, 256GB of internal memory, but the main highlight here is really that Android 13. I noticed that a lot of phones that was launched even last week or 2 weeks ago, they were launched with Android 12, and these phones might never see the light of Android 13. So I'm very pleased to say that with Android 13 right out of the box, it's good to be having the latest software on your brand new device. Other than that, I've been using the OPPO Find X5 Pro as well, for almost a year now, and I noticed that it was one of the earliest devices to actually get Android 13 on that phone itself. So I'm actually quite confident that the new versions of Android will hit the OPPO Reno8 T when the time comes. Other than that, it's also worth mentioning that OPPO did a 48-month fluency test that basically guarantees that this phone will be smooth going over at least a period of 2 years. So rest assured, you will be getting a pretty decent experience there. Alright, so that pretty much sums up my thoughts with the OPPO Reno8 T. At the end of the day, it is clear that OPPO is really upping their mid-range smartphones. It's always good to see new features, new unique features being brought down to mid-range devices that can only once be seen on flagship devices. Anyways, this device is out for pre-order now. If you want to pre-order, you can check out the links down below. You can pre-order it from now till the 10th of February. You even get a free Enco Buds 2, a 1-year screen protection warranty, and a 1-year extended warranty. Again, check out the links down below if you want to find out more information about that. Alright, so with that said, thank you for watching today's video all the way to the end. Again, if you like this kind of content, don't forget to drop a like, sub to the channel, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Stay safe, everybody. Bye!